Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Today we are back with continuing our last night's discussion with Shri Avadhuta Shri Divyananda Nath. We were discussing Tantra, we were discussing God, divinity, religion, spirituality, Brahmo Samaj, their impact, etc. and a bit of atheism as well. And right when we were getting into the most juiciest sections of our conversation, a gigantic thunderstorm broke out in front of my house and the power went off. So today we are continuing it, and thankfully we have him today as well to do the part 2 sort of. So thank you Dada for coming back today.
Thank you very much, Neerajan. I hope everything is fine after the storm last night.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So Dada, doing a basic recap, I would like to just start with that topic, that how much of our faith has been Abrahamized, do you think? And how much of it do we really need to, again, peel away and eliminate the Abrahamization? Is that necessary?
Do you want me to answer that again?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just get to the my direct opinions. I think let's not use percentages, but
right.
Numerical percentages.
Yes.
But a lot of our present day contemporary Hindu culture has been Abrahamized and also globalized,
right.
in a way.
Yes.
In a way, globalized, which is something that I have a lot of good feeling for. And globalized does not really mean Western localized, Like recently, the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, said something very profound. I feel it was very profound that Europe thinks that Europe's problems are the world's problems, and the world's problems are not Europe's problems. Not that sort of globalism, but a globalism that also encompasses the global South.
Right.
The southern hemispheric, not hemisphere really, but more the southern countries all across the globe, which have been under the influence of a lot of proselytization,
right,
and an immense amount of Abrahamization through diverse fronts,
right.
From diverse fronts, on diverse fronts.
Yes.
So I feel a lot of it has been Abrahamized, globalized as well. So I feel that we need to go back to, it's not really a call to get back to the original sort of culture, but, not really the mother culture, because that is not possible at this point of time when the world has changed so much.
Yeah.
So at least getting back to the spirit of the culture.
Right.
The spirit, the basics of the origin. For example, I had thought that I would not bring, in fact, I remember asking you not to bring this up as well, because it itself requires, it is such a serious topic that it requires a different sort of conversation entirely about Jati and Varna.
Right.
To get back to the basics of why there were Jatis, there were Varnas, if you consider it this way, those people who are supposedly the upper castes, that very immature phrase, upper caste, that those castes in the Hindu Varnashram Dharma are the ones who have the largest amount of prohibitions to deal with.
Yes.
Prohibitions and disciplines.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas it is not as it has been specifically stated that drinking alcohol is forbidden for the Drija. I rest my case now.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
I have read the Manusmriti, and that
a Brahmin would have to worry about drinking alcohol. He would not be able to do all the things that other people are being able to do.
Yes.
So I think we need to get back to that sort of spirit instead of looking at rituals plainly as rituals and celebrations. Pujas not as utsavas, but pujas as pujas, Mahapuja.
Right.
Because the ideal word for Durga Puja, for example, has turned into a sort of a Bhaktini and carnivalist
Yes.
You know, anything goes.
And
कुछ
that
भी
is sort of
चलता है.
a declared position of the Communist Party, at least. I've asked people from the
Yeah,
Communist
yeah.
Party.
The Communist Party is full of its own what you know. So the point is that I have all respect for people who understand the essential necessity of equality among human beings,
Yes.
which is what the Hindu Shastras also preach. You know,
Yes.
the external body and what it does not leave the internal soul, you know, impure, because inside at its basic core, Hinduism believes that the Atman is ever free and ever pure. There is no
Yes.
purifying the Atman. And if
Yes.
in fact, when we do Achaman in the Smarta Paddhati, in
Right.
the Smarta Vidhis, when we do Achaman, we say Yasmarit Pundarikakshansa Vahi Abhyantara Shuchi.
Okay.
When I remember Pundarikaksha, that is the lotus height one,
Hmm.
my outsides and insides are all purified. Here,
Right.
insides abhyantara, as in like that which is inside.
Hmm.
You know, people generally think that it is through the name of Pundarikaksha that uh, one is getting purified. That is one way of understanding it. But I have a different take on this.
Okay.
That the remembrance of the fact that I myself, my individual soul itself, is a part of Pundarikaksha, the supreme soul.
Right.
By remembrance of that act, we become pure.
Right.
So my point is to get back to the spirit of the uh, ritual and the culture, rather than trying to get back to something very impossible, a utopia sort of thing, where Vimanas flew out of Ravana's ports and that sort of stuff. Why the Shivalinga is basically a nuclear device, that that sort of right away thing.
Yeah.
I don't really think that helps in any way.
Yes.
It instead weakens our narrative.
Yes.
The narrative of resistance that we Hindus have, many Hindus have built up.
Right.
That is weakened.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to the perfect segue where we got cut off last night. Is that then why do mantras work? How do mantras work?
So I will first begin with the view that the very basic view that the philosophy of the tantras offer, that Shabda is an emanation of Brahma, and because Shabda is Brahma, therefore Shabda permeates everything. There is a frequency, a resonance in every bit of this whole existence, this whole universe or multiverse, as you fit to see it. So Shabda brings Artha, as in meaning.
Yes.
Okay. But between Shabda and Artha, the Setu, the bridge, is Shakti.
I see.
This Shakti is not Durga Kali, that sort of Shakti, but rather a very grammatical term from Panini's Ashtatyai.
Okay.
Where Shakti is the connection between Shabda and Artha.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And the sounds of the human spectrum, human oral spectrum, are limited. Obviously, you can understand that it's a scientific fact.
Yes. There
comes the issue of speech. Again, speech is divided into 4 categories, levels of speech. Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari. So mantras exist on different levels. Different mantras exist on different levels of speech and consciousness.
Right.
So speech, the connection is made to consciousness. Yes. And one might ask, what is being connected? Well, the unconscious is being connected to the conscious. Right. The human unconscious is being connected to the larger consciousness of, not cosmic consciousness, but a larger consciousness.
Okay.
And mantras are sounds that that keep flowing between these levels of these philosophically labeled levels of sound and rhythm and consciousness.
Yeah.
Let us take, for example, the word, you know, the sound ka,
Okay.
not k as in the English lexicon,
Hmm.
as in the English alphabet, but ka.
Hmm.
Simply the sound ka. What does it suggest? It doesn't suggest anything at its very beginning,
Hmm.
but somebody who has the ability to form a shape out of that sound and has done that sort of experimentation on one's own psychosomatic body,
Yeah.
imagining ka to be the emanating sound for the word Krishna, or for the word Kali,
Hmm.
ka.
Yeah.
So that sort of logic would lead us to add other sounds along with it. We add supposedly, let's suppose a ra to it, it becomes kra. Then we attach an akar to it or an ikar to it,
Yeah.
it becomes kri, and so on and so forth. At
Yes.
different levels of. Am I being too obtuse?
No, no.
Okay, so this is my understanding of Spanda as we see it.
Right.
Both in Kashmir Shaivism and in the Kaula system of the Tantra as well.
Okay.
Uh, so these throbs that exist in the universe are created by Rillik. The
Okay.
Rillekha patterns. The whole universe is basically a set of patterns.
Right. Yeah.
Those patterns are known in the language of the Tantra as Rillekha
I see.
or Rillik.
Okay.
So at these different levels, sound permeates, fluctuates, and somebody who grasps onto a sound
Hmm.
and is given understanding of that sound through a very sharp delineated process, which in mortal and mundane terms we call diksha.
Yeah.
The guru who has already done that sort of experimentation
Hmm.
on his own body or her own body
Hmm.
imparts that wisdom to the shishya, the disciple, through
Right.
the mystic syllable. And
Yes.
that way, the Shishya takes on the experience of the Guru, maybe not the whole experience, but the partial experience of the Guru. And
Hmm.
the Guru continues to transmit that sort of experience to the Shishya, which is why, it is said in the Shastras that a Shishya must always try to do as much, always try to, live in the company of his Guru as much he or she can,
Hmm.
which is why since it is physically not possible in all cases,
Hmm.
even then the seers of our dharma, they they devised the very first act in the morning when you wake up is pratakritya, or the puja of the Guru,
Right.
and then the remembrance of the self,
Yeah.
etc., 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 so
Yeah.
on, and then sandhya, and then that's all.
Yeah.
So all of these things are ritually. I mean, I lead. It might be very difficult for people to assume it, but
Hmm.
considering my name and what I'm trying to represent here,
Hmm.
but I live a very modern life with gadgets
I
and
see.
proper schedules, and
Right.
I eat at Domino's.
Okay.
Of course, I don't. I have control. I don't eat anything and everything inside,
Hmm.
anywhere and everywhere,
Yeah.
because there's questions of hygiene.
Right.
Okay, but it is very much. I can vouch for it. Uh, as an educated person, I can vouch for it that this almost 5,000-year-old system
Hmm.
of life is very much livable if people would only, you know, revise their attitude towards the world and the society at large. The
Right.
zeitgeist needs to change.
Right.
The world view that India is going through, or let us say the Hindu sphere is going through,
Hmm.
that needs to accelerate, and it will be easy for anybody and everybody to live with that sort of practice.
Yeah.
It is actually for everybody. There's space for everybody. Even I remember saying this yesterday as well,
Hmm.
that even an atheist is can basically be a practicing Hindu.
Right. And how important are the perfect pronunciations of the mantras? And is there any place for just translating them into English as some people do
No,
in
no,
Kolkata
no,
these
no,
days,
no,
the
no.
English Vedic
So
weddings.
here I am a bit of an orthographic person.
Hmm.
I don't believe that translations help.
Hmm.
Translations may communicate the message,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, there is always loss in
Okay.
translation.
Yeah.
So translations don't work, and
Right.
those and mantras taken from books also don't work.
I see.
I've seen that myself. Uh, Continuing from where I, sort of diverged.
Yeah.
Mantras exist like that, and when the guru, imparts that vidya, that particular bit of discipline to the shishya,
Hmm.
the shishya continues practicing it and passes it on to the next generation.
Yes.
This is how the guru parampara is going on and on and on, like this, for
Right.
hundreds of years.
Right. Yeah.
So pronunciation is extremely important, which is why when the guru starts initiating in the path of the Kaula, in the
Hmm.
Tantra as well,
Hmm.
there is something known as Matrika.
Okay.
Matrika, as in the 51 letters of the alphabet, are 51 goddesses.
I see.
Each of them have their own family,
Okay.
their Bhairavas, their husbands and their sons, Ganeshas,
I see.
Kartikeyas,
Oh.
and all of them are visualized by us when we do the uh,
Hmm.
Laya Yoga during our practice.
Hmm.
All the 51 letters of the alphabet.
I see.
There's a book called The Garland of Letters by Sir John Woodruff.
Yeah.
It is called the Varnamala. I mean,
Yeah.
it is from the Varnamala Tantra,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, so that's what.
Okay. And why do you think? Is it right to say that Bengali is the closest surviving language to Sanskrit today? It seems to me so, because I know I can read. I mean, I can listen and understand almost all non-Dravidian languages, but Bengali seems to me the closest to Sanskrit, because now that I'm reading a lot of English translations of Sanskrit texts, at least, even the Bengali Rig Veda I'm reading, almost everything is almost totally in Bengali. If you just alter the pronunciations a little, is that true? Is it the only is it only true for Bengali? And if so, why?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
well, a lot of languages. The question of imperialist repression comes up here again. By the way,
Hmm.
I think you must understand. Obviously, you'll understand as thinking Bengali that the Bengali language has been tampered with incessantly over the last 100 years
Yes.
by this so-called uh, custodian of the Bengali language, the
Yeah.
Academy,
Yeah.
and the Calcutta Century, and then the Dhaka Academy as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not a linguist, but
Hmm.
I can say that there are also other languages which have retained their purity
I see.
to a large extent possible.
I see.
Maybe we should not compare, or I mean, it is possibly foolish to compare,
Okay.
and it doesn't make any sense whether Bengali is one of the most, one of the languages nearest to Sanskrit,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, the Bengali culture, Bengali Hindu culture, is
Hmm.
one of the farthest from the original
Right.
mother culture of, of,
Yes.
of the Sanatana.
Yes. Yeah. That is
And
what
I
actually makes me
think that I
wonder
have a
that.
lot of Bengalis who are haters who hate me because I say these things, and I'm not a
Yeah.
very big favorite of theirs. But I'll say that, speak the truth. This is what it is. This is what I feel as a person living in this century, in
Yeah.
a part of the country which has been disowned by Bengal, by the Bangla sphere, so to speak of.
Yeah. Then and now getting back to a little bit of yesterday's topic again, that religious or not, people may end up being good or bad. So is
Yeah.
there any way to create more numbers of moral people or good people, so to speak, by being religious, or by promoting religion or
I mean,
belief in God, etc.?
well, I don't think even that. I mean, I don't think there's a direct answer even in the tantras for this sort of thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, by practice, there's this saying from, I think, this French revolution thinker. What was his name? Rousseau, I think.
Okay.
There's this quote from Rousseau that by imitation we take the good in others as our own, and that is the highest form of flattery. So I think the second part doesn't matter, but the first part is yes, we can sort of demonstrate a very balanced, modern sort of dharmic existence,
Right.
and by that, if somebody else might be inspired by that, I don't know. I have not really given it much thought.
Okay. Do tantric texts say anything about violence or self-defense, things like that? Because the mainstream urban view is that Hinduism teaches non-violence, and therefore be defenseless until you get killed. What are some answers that Tantra might have given us?
What is violence? Then again, the question rises.
Killing, physically harming people.
But in self-defense, well, in self-defense, it's almost a necessity, I think.
Right.
And out of one's own volition, I mean, it really depends upon what you look on as violence. I mean, I am not a big fan of PETA, but I mean, and Balidana is an essential part of the Shakta Dharma.
Yeah.
But it can also be done, if one, because everybody doesn't really have that sort of money at hand ready for a puja. He or she would offer a goat or a buffalo or something like that, offered to the goddess.
Yeah.
It's not something that everybody can think of.
Yeah.
So those who want to practice, they should be able to practice it. I suppose your question did refer to this, I think.
No, it's more in terms of
okay,
people.
so it was very general.
Yeah.
Tantric texts, yes, they speak of the Vira Bhava, where the Vira is basically like the Roman not gladiator. Gladiators were slaves. It was like the Roman soldier,
Yeah.
austere and not afraid of anything, and proud of his battalion, his whole platoon. That sort of a person. He is a Vira in the language of the Tantras.
Right.
But about self-defense through mantra and ritual, yes. There's a lot of that. In fact, self-defense using, tantrika rituals are an essential part of our day-to-day practice.
Right.
Now, why self-defense? What sort of violence are you expecting? You must be aware of the tripartite, categorization of, of vipatti in the Hindu, culture. That is Adidaivik, Adibhautik, and Adhyatmik. The three types of barriers and assaults that might come from outside. So one has to guard oneself against all of these things if one is to proceed in the line of sadhana, because it is very important that that sadhana must be kept intact.
Okay.
The practice of sadhana must not falter.
Right.
It cannot falter no matter what happens. Even if somebody is dying in front of you, you must be capable of performing both your duties as a human being by helping that person, and at the same time, if it is time for your sandhya, you must be able to do your sandhya in the manas, mentally. So your attention must be that perfect. So there is indeed a disciplined regimen of psychosomatic practice in many tantric texts. Self-defense using astras, yes, there are several such chapters available in a tantric text known as the Meru Tantra, where it prescribes the mantric invocation of weapons, missiles like the Sudarshanastra, Pashupatastra, etc., etc. So this and that. So there are these, and then there is also the practice of yoga that guards one from external stimulus.
Okay.
that is again something I don't really want to talk about in public.
Okay.
But if you are talking about, regimented force, like the sort of, display of valor that you see among the Naga sannyasis
Hmm.
in during the Haridwar, the Kumbh Mela and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That is not really for householder practitioners of the Tantra, but
Hmm.
for Kshatriyas,
Yeah.
the possession of weapons is an essential.
Right.
And the knowledge of weaponry is also essential.
Hmm.
In fact, it is even now a practice to worship the goddess in the form of a sword
Right.
and to worship Shiva in the form of a trident.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a particular ritual in our lineage where, uh, at a certain point of time
Hmm.
in the country, because in our lineage and many Kaula lineages, it doesn't begin and end with diksha. It
Okay.
continues every year. You graduate from one step to another step, and it is a long process of almost 10 to 15 years.
I see.
So there is a point in this continuous ritual progression where, uh, we are given our individual trishuls,
Okay.
our swords,
Hmm.
and our vajras, and other weaponry, one
Yeah.
after the other, in order to worship them as individual deities, and also in order to keep them sharp. We are supposed to
Hmm.
keep them sharp.
Right.
They're not supposed to be dulled with only worship.
Right.
Yeah.
And this actually has triggered a nice conversation in our live chat here. Someone asked that where did Tantra actually originate? Some people say Tibet, and other people are commenting that it's Kashmir and Bengal. So then the person responds that Hindus became minority in these two regions. So what do you think about that? Where did Tantra actually originate according to you? And
That's a nice corollary that they have drawn.
yeah.
But in my view,
Hmm.
the original Sanatana Dharma was the Tantric Dharma.
I see.
What we refer to now as the
Hmm.
Vedas are originally Tantric texts,
I see.
and what we refer to as the Vedic, sacrifices and oblations, etc.
Hmm.
That is the path of the Tantra.
Right.
If there are callers who are listening to this,
Hmm.
they will know that at a certain ritual in our very secret ritual in
Hmm.
our lineage and in other lineages also, the use of Vaidika mantras is extremely essential. Without it, the worship cannot be completed. Without the use of these Vaidika mantras.
I see.
So my Srinath once told me that Tantra is Phalita Veda, as in the Vedas in practice. Now,
Right.
people might ask me, well, the Vedas do not speak of animal sacrifice. The
Hmm.
Vedas speak of animal sacrifice.
Hmm.
There is animal sacrifice in the Vedas,
Yes.
but those sacrifices are mostly forbidden to be practiced during the age when Kali is on the ascendant, the Kali
I
Yuga.
see.
It is forbidden to practice these on
Yeah.
the pain of death, literally.
I see.
So there are people like this Marxist historian called D.N. Jha, I think,
Hmm.
Dhirendra Jha. He
Yeah.
writes about this book. I read his book, The Myth of the Holy Cow.
Hmm.
One of the earliest communist diatribes against beef eating in Hinduism.
I see.
Beef eating as it is forbidden in Hinduism.
Hmm.
So I found the entire text to be so naive and so uninformed.
Yeah.
This person had taken what was communitarian practice. Communitarian practice is not always right.
Right.
It cannot be always right.
Hmm.
And mostly communitarian practices deviate from the original sources.
Hmm.
So he has written so much about why the Vedas say you should eat cows and this and that.
Hmm.
But these are not for this yuga. The
Right.
Gomedha Yagya they speak of, but I don't know where they came out of, with this. But these are yagyas and rituals that are forbidden in the Kali Yuga. These
Right.
are called Kalivarjitas.
I see.
Kalivarjita. Like there are specific regions of Bharata where some of these rituals are still allowed. For example, Mangsha Shraddha, the offering of 13 kinds of meat during the Shraddha,
Yeah.
is a ritual that is allowed only within the borders of Kashmir.
I see.
But in the rest of the country, Mangsha Shraddha is forbidden in Kali Yuga. Ashwamedha Yagya is forbidden in the Kali Yuga. But in the Uttar Kuru region, which is basically, in my feeble understanding, it's Uzbekistan. That's what the steppes, near the steppes region.
Yeah.
In the Uttar Kuru region, Ashwamedha Yagya is still allowed.
I see.
But in mainstream Bharata, that is Madhya Desha, Magadha, Udra, Kalinga, etc., Amarupa, Ashwamedha Yagya is forbidden.
Yeah. Would it be then fair to say that all the so-called non-tantra Vedic paths that we see today, which are very much against any sort of animal cruelty or any harm towards animals, etc., are those a major influence of just Buddhism then?
No. That's again a very foolish thing to say.
Okay.
It depends. See, the Tantra accommodates everybody. There are. I told you already yesterday that the Hindu religion. I mean, it almost. I'm sure you would know it better than me. That the Hindu religion is such an exclusively inclusive religion.
Yeah.
And culture that it can take in anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
It can take in anybody and everybody. These are not influences of Buddhism. Why? Because Buddhism, when it was being practiced across the country from Bihar to Tibet.
Yeah.
From Bihar to Tibet.
Yeah.
It was not practiced in the same sort of way, which is why you have the Vajrayana school, the Mahayana school.
Yeah.
Within the Mahayana school, you have the Gelugpas, you have the Kagyupas, the Sakyat Indians line, etc. So many lineages. Some of these lineages, some of these cults, they advocate the eating of meat. Some of them avoid the eating of meat, etc.
I see.
So it's not really that sort of a generalization should not be made. But continuing from where I diverged again last week, a couple of minutes back. My point is that Tantra began nowhere, but everywhere. I mean, even a Greek person worshipping the goddess Artemis on top of the Mount Olympus, offered her meat and wine and fish.
Yeah. I asked this because sorry, please come.
No, please continue.
Okay. I had once read a paper a few months back about Castism in Buddhism. So there I was reading.
That's there. That's definitely there.
So yeah, that paper was mentioning that some texts have said that Buddha himself criticized Vedic Brahmins for doing animal sacrifices, and he was showing the better path, which is without any animal sacrifice.
Oh. Well, the Buddha, again, the question arises, which Buddha?
Yeah.
There were several Buddhas.
Right.
Gautama Buddha was not just one person.
Yeah.
Just like many people are fond of saying that Krishna was not just person, he was many persons turned into one figure over the years, over the centuries and millennia.
Yeah.
The Buddha also, and tradition also says that there was another Buddha called Sumedh.
Right.
Before Tathagata.
Okay.
So, which Buddha? Please give me information as to that first, and then maybe we can think of what the Buddha has said about. Then again, if that is the case, in the Tripitakas, in the suttas, and you will in all these texts, the Jatakas, you'll find that there are references to people by their caste names,
Yeah.
This Brahmana,
Yeah.
this Kshatriya, this
Yes.
Shudra. So,
Yes.
I mean, if he had at all criticized, they would have done away with it, right?
Yeah, they did not do away with it at all.
Well, Bhima, Ambedkar's Buddhism was not the Buddhism practiced in ancient times.
Yes,
Sorry,
of course.
Ambedkar's Buddhism is basically a century-old invention.
Yeah, it's
Not even a
Ambedkarism
century
basically.
old.
It's not even Buddhism.
Yeah. No. This is not Buddhism. The hate for Hindus, the utter hate for Hindus,
Yeah.
and the spewing of bile and
Yeah.
against Hindu gods, Brahma Vishnu Maheshwar को नहीं मानूंगा,
Yeah.
मत मानो, मैंने कब बोला मानने के लिए,
Yeah.
आप मत मानो,
Yeah.
गाली भी मत दो,
Yeah.
ठीक है ना, live and let live. So this Bhima thing is well, I find it very off-putting,
Yes.
very uninformed.
Yeah. And in fact, Rahul Sankrityayan, who is Buddhist and Marxist, I was reading a book about written by him. It's a famous travelogue, his journey from Sri Lanka to Tibet by foot.
Yeah, I know. Volga থেকে গঙ্গা, হ্যাঁ।
No, not that one. Sri Lanka to Tibet, because he was trying
Oh
to
yeah,
avoid the British
yes.
so
Well, they say he was a Marxist, but I mean, what he did in his lifetime was something that he was not a champagne Marxist.
Right, absolutely.
That's it. He was not a champagne Marxist.
Yeah. There he points out that casually in a sentence, he just describes, then I saw on the roads some Brahmins, some Jains, some Buddhists. So he was basically differentiating them not on the basis of religion, but a specific religious practitioner class, or so-called the priest class, who followed different paths. And the rest of the people were not really part of any specific religion, so to speak. That was the interesting thing I found from Rahul Sankrityayan. Is that do you think that's right?
You mean I didn't get the question really? Could you just
So it's not like there are different religions called Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, but some are just Brahmins, some are Buddhists, and some are Jains. That was the way he framed the sentence.
This is also a way of looking at things, and if you say that you follow the Sanatana Dharma, then yes, I mean we are part of a larger rubric called the Sanatana Dharma.
Yeah.
The Bharatiya Dharma.
Right.
If not Sanatana Dharma, Bharatiya Dharma, Dharma of Bharat.
Right.
So from Tibet till, the Dharma of Bharat is what? The worship, as I said yesterday, the worship of trees, mountains, statues, one's parents, everything is imbued with divinity.
Yeah. And since Tantra also does not shy away from violence, self-defense, etc., and then the one famous usual atheist question always arises is that why couldn't the gods protect us from invasions, especially in these parts? The most Shakti Pithas are outside India today. Is there any explanation for that?
Well, yes. I mean, the gods didn't protect you because you didn't protect yourself. There's this very interesting story from my childhood. I used to. Well, this I think also derived from some Vaishnava Purana, where in Vaikuntha one day Lakshmi and Narayana were seated together. Suddenly Narayana rushed from his seat and wanted to go out of Vaikuntha, but he came back after having walked for half the way. And then Lakshmi asked him, why did you go and come back? Why did you come back from half the way?
Yeah.
So Vishnu said that, there was this devotee of mine who, was calling for aid when he was in trouble. Because some wild animal had attacked him, and by the time I had gone there to rescue him, he had already picked up a large stone and started to defend himself.
Yeah.
So I was pleased by this, so I came back. I didn't need to go. So this is not really taking any side, but well, I think the reason why, well, there is an esoteric reason also, I feel, why many Shaktipitas uh, fell into disuse. And mark my observation that most of these Shaktipitas belong to the Punjab and to Bengal.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yes.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Jwalamukhi, Hingula, Joshoreshwari, and Grivapit, Mahalakshmipit in Srihotto. In these places, there's a history, there's a steady history in the Kaula historiography as well of people, practitioners from these places having fallen from their higher exalted statuses as good practitioners, worthy practitioners of the of sadhana. So there has always been misuse of sadhana. There have always been people who have duped other people. It isn't as if 500 years ago we were all, holy and pure. So there was bad karma, and it came back in the form of enslavement and torture and repression, and it continues till today.
Yeah. And from our self-defense conversation, I'm reminded of Sir John Woodruff's own story when he was sitting inside the Calcutta High Court and listening to a case, and he feels distracted because of some sadhana going on outside by a tantric. How does that work? If mantras altered your consciousness, how do you alter someone else's consciousness or some effect on them by the help of mantras?
Well, there's this thing from American comics, you see, where there's this prank being played by people putting a white sheet on top of their heads and jumping out of cupboards and saying boo.
Yeah.
Right. So how does if a simple boo can affect another person so much, well, why can't a mantra have impact? Then again, the question is, okay, boo, this thing happens in close quarters.
Right.
But mantras, as I said, the whole universe is a collection of patterns. Okay. There's a quotation, I think this is from the Kulardava Tantra or maybe from the Malini Vijayottara Tantra. Okay. I'm not sure, where it is said, Shankukarne Dhvani Prokta Sthulatvam Sthulakeshwari. Jnaninanam Hridayancha Rillekha Parameshwari. In the conch shell, you exist as sound, unformed sound. In the material world, you exist as the throb in the material world, the constant throb of life that happens in the material world. And in the heart of the knowledgeable, of the wise, you exist as Rillekha. So a person who is wise, considering here wisdom to be the accumulation of experience,
right,
in the hearts of the wise, I'm not going into more labels here. In the hearts of the wise, of the experienced, you exist as the shapes of the patterns of the universe. So when a person through mantra sadhana becomes aware of the patterns of the universe, she or he can definitely influence. Why not? I have seen such things happen, so I can say for sure. Well, I don't drink, so obviously I wasn't befuddled or anyway, so I have seen these things happen.
I see.
And then again, there's this inexplicability factor that works.
Right. And someone is asking here that what are the similarities and differences between where did the question? Kaula Tantra and Vajrayana Tantra.
What are the similarities and basics between Kaula Tantra and Vajrayana Tantra?
Similarities and differences.
Similarities and
differences.
What are the similarities and the differences? Well, there are no similarities and differences.
Okay.
One is a continuation of the other.
I see. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
One
it's
is
just
a continuation of the other. That should suffice as an answer.
I see. Okay. And again, this reminds me of the other question I had planned, that it seems to me, on the minimal reading I have done of some Hindu texts, or getting to know a bit of Hindu history only in the last 2-3 years, because I was born and raised in a communist atheist family. It seems that Hinduism encourages individuality to a large extent. Would that be fair to say? Is there a lack of group identity formation in Hinduism, or because of the specific paths in Hinduism?
I feel Hinduism encourages one to walk both ways.
Hmm.
Balance one's uh, uh, cards in both hands.
Hmm.
Whereas a soldier cannot develop as a part of a collective unit without doing his own individual practice. Similarly, it is impossible to form a positive collective, a positively charged collective,
Yeah.
without individual practice.
Yes.
Let us leave out the adjective positive here, and let us talk about just collectives and individualities.
Yeah.
Individual practice, for example, people practice, the Muslims practice namaz. That's an individual practice. They also practice collective namaz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On Eid, they practice, everybody comes together and practices. It is the individual act being translated into a larger act, which is why I have this, objection against Durga Puja being turned into a carnival. And I'm infuriated with Calcutta regarding this, because you're basically botching up the individual practices of Bengalis.
Yeah.
Mark it very properly. If you have read Hutum Bachar Noksha,
No, I haven't.
and you have seen the portrayal of Durga Pujas in it by what was his name? What was this fellow's? Kali Prasanna Singho.
Okay.
Durga Puja being being an occasion for ribaldry and courtesans and nautch girls, etc., etc., etc. So this thing Bengal is responsible for. Bengalis are responsible for this. They have been doing this we have been doing this for the last 200 years. Yeah. And it is very natural that our lives will be cursed.
Yes.
Well, it is very natural. You have turned individual souls, spiritual practices into an occasion for ribaldry. Into an occasion for, say, Utshav Jarja. Oh, what was it?
Dharma Jarjar Utshav Shabar.
Oh, yeah. Dharma Jarjar Utshav. Yeah. That's false. That's bullshit. Dharma Jarjar Utshav Shabar. This is absolute crap. Dharma Shabar Utshav Jarjar.
Yeah. Then this brings to my mind the question that if atheists did that, people who were atheists or born atheist, and they thought of the Durga Puja that way, it would make sense.
Who's a born atheist?
Who's sort of raised in a family where there's no puja part going on. Everyone.
No. I don't believe that sort of thing happens. I have seen very rabid atheists come out of very orthodox families, and I've seen very rabidly atheist. Well, I have come from a very atheistic sort of an atheistic unit of the family, and I was a very orthodox person. I'm not any longer. I can very proudly say that I'm not a very, very orthodox person any longer.
I see.
But that doesn't happen. I mean, it's impossible to say what one's karma is.
Okay. No, my question here is
it's not a generalization again.
Yeah. So my question here is that if the atheists looked at Durga Puja that way, that would make sense. How did so many believing Shaktas of Bengal give in to this cultural worship phenomenon?
Bhai Nirajan, listen. The point is, if your wife wants you to go shopping during Durga Puja, not shopping. If your wife wants to go, pirouetting all over the place in her new pujo shari and uncomfortable ensemble of ornaments at what was this place? Madison? No, not Madison Square. Maddox Square.
Maddox Square.
You know, then who the hell are you to sit down and practice japa and sadhana at home?
But
It is the
even the
greed.
wife would be a believer, ideally, at least in.
I mean, I'm saying wives because I have a wife.
Yeah.
So the point is there that if there is greed, and I'm not saying only wives do this.
Yeah.
Husbands also do this.
Of course.
So if there is greed for an upward sense of mobility, a competitive space where the collective is dissolved and the and the cult of individuality is encouraged, there larger institutions fall into disuse. Okay, and people think that they're being modern, they're being modernized, they're expanding their boundaries. They're not basically expanding their boundaries, they're letting their surrounding wall fall into disuse and opening their house to wolves and tigers and other other beasts of prey.
Right.
So the point is that where there is greed for upward mobility, which has been there in Bengal since the business competition between Dwarkanath Thakur and the British started.
I see.
There's this incident from the Sunil Ganguly's book Prothom Alo, where he describes the Tagore Shipping Company distributing saris and dhotis to the passengers if they would travel by their boats, whereas the English boats were of better build and work faster, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. It was a very passing commentary on the nature of the Bengalis then, and I think it's particularly true for Bengalis even now.
Nice.
That greed for upward mobility. Well, there were so many Bengalis who were participating in the 1916 Darbar.
Yeah.
As many, even if there weren't so many kings in Bengal at that point, there wasn't a single king in Bengal at that point of time. But there were as many attendees as many Bengali attendees in the Darbar as there were Rajasthani kings.
Right.
Who were actually kings, actually kings.
Yes.
It calls to mind a very rather savage and rude idiom, which I would not like to use here. All the fuss for nothing, much ado about nothing.
Yeah. Okay, this reminds me. This is a very important question I've been meaning to ask someone who knows some important Hindu texts at least, and you are the first person kind of I'm talking to who knows these things. What would be your relationship advice for the next generation, people who are in their 20s and 30s? How do we choose a partner, both men and women?
Relationship advice as in boyfriend, girlfriend?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a very important thing. Don't do it. It's total mess. It's a wastage of time.
I see.
It's a waste. No. It's not a wastage of time. No. It's not a wastage of time. Do it, but with caution. Don't hurt people. That's all.
Do you mean that directly head for marriage and then bypass the girlfriend-boyfriend phase?
See, unlike what people would like to have you believe, the ancient texts of the Hindu dharma or the Hindu culture person, for example, the Malavikagnimitram of Kalidasa, and other texts as well, and subtexts in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. This practice of courting one's beloved person, falling in love with a person, and adoring that person, and being intimate with that person, and not getting married until you get married, or don't at all. This has been part of the Hindu cultural memory for as long as any Hindu can remember. I'll give you examples.
Hmm.
What about Kacha Devyani?
Hmm.
Kacha Devyani's relationship, which never turned into marriage.
Hmm.
Shri Krishna and Radharani
Hmm.
never turned into marriage.
Yeah.
Shri Krishna and Rukmini,
Yeah.
affair turned into marriage.
Yeah.
Arjuna and Subhadra, affair turned into marriage. Uh, uh, what else? Dushyanta and Shakuntala,
Hmm.
having a child out of wedlock
Right.
and still still not being ostracized by the society.
Yeah.
These are parts of, I mean, and Shakuntala is the mother of Bharata, after whom the this land of Bharata has been named.
Is it named after Bharata, or it's named after the Bharata tribe whose head was Sudasa?
Well, there are different, explanations for that. But the most common explanation, the more common explanation would be, more common source is that as much of earth as Bharata's chariot covered, and that is the prevalent narrative in the Mahabharata as well.
Right. I see.
Shakuntala is hailed as one of the founders of the Shakuntala, as well as the Apsara Urvashi.
I see.
Is hailed as one of the founders of the Kuru race.
I see. Yeah.
Both of them are hailed as founders. And in fact, Arjuna, when he meets Urvashi, and Urvashi expresses her regard for him and wanting to be intimate with him, Arjuna says, "No, how can I do this? You're my grandmother. You're my ancestor from several generations removed. I cannot do this. I'll fall under sin." And then Urvashi curses him for a year to remain as a eunuch in the Brihannala during the Agyatavasa of the Pandavas. So all these things have been there, and it's better not when I say that relationships. At the end of the day, what matters is the simplicity, and the more you simplify, the better it is. And I think it is important to find people who are attuned to your lifestyle, to your sort of perspectives on life. Instead of I think the practice of arranged marriage is also very cruel.
I see.
I think it's very cruel. I have had to go through that myself. So it's not as if it has benefited a lot of people. Women were free to, marry whoever they liked, even in ancient times. Consider Sita, consider Draupadi, consider Rukmani, all of them. So, choose well, respect. In the Tantras, the woman who is the partner in the partnership has the larger role.
Right.
Which is why the Tantra absolves the women from following any rituals. They don't have to follow any rituals. They don't have to follow. They are eternally pure, eternally free.
I see.
It is men who have to purify themselves over and over again.
Right. And this, in fact, has been, I guess, misconstrued by Bengali atheists and communists to say that, therefore, the Bengali view of Hinduism is very much a feminist view, and therefore, by default, somehow women must always have a stronger voice, and therefore we see that Bengali masculinity has been in crisis for a long time. Is there a correlation between these things? We don't have those sorts of strong Bengali Hindu kings. Last was probably King Shashanka, like we have elsewhere in the country, and therefore Bengali communists say that
we had very valiant kings. We had very valiant kings. We had very valiant people, Kedar Sen, Pratapaditya, and several other kings. Not only in Bengal, not only in what is now Bengal, not only in West Bengal, but also in East Bengal. Okay. So we had very valiant kings and queens. Induvati,
Yeah.
And Dirghatam. Sorry, I don't remember this lady's name. Anyway,
Okay.
so uh, there have been several. Only they have not been sung a lot.
Okay.
They have not been spoken about a lot. Bengal had its own Jhansi Ki Rani. You must have heard of Rai Baghi Bhava Shankari.
Yes. But the size of their
Uh,
kingdoms, their reign, their lineage were not very influential in terms of size and quantity, etc. We don't have a Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Chandragupta Maurya, etc. in those terms.
but yes, there's this one thing that we did not have. It was particularly because of the degeneration that had crept into the Bengali culture. And it was already by the time, that sort of thing was extremely essential.
Hmm.
You know, uh, because the first and foremost, the Bengali Hindu sphere had, especially the Bengali Hindu sphere of Birbhum and all these areas,
Hmm.
they had lost their vivacity and
Hmm.
they turned towards other things. Let us not get into the historical details of what
Yeah.
exactly happened.
Yeah.
But it is wrong to say that there weren't any such people. And it is
Okay.
true that Bengali masculinity presently is at at a crisis.
Hmm.
But then again, it is pertinent to ask which Bengal. Which Bengal? I don't think there is only one Bengal. There is West Bengal. Fine, very good.
Yes.
Okay, there is Assam. There is Tripura.
Hmm.
There is Upper
Right.
Assam. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. There is Upper Assam.
Yeah.
There are other parts of the country where Bengalis are settled widely,
True.
and even if they don't count as Bengali spheres, at least Southern Assam does,
Yeah.
with three districts and a half of Bengali of predominantly Bengali population.
Hmm.
Tripura as well. You
Yeah.
know. So I think that sort of thing has not completely reached here. I'm saying completely because, well, there have been influences felt
Hmm.
thanks to
Yeah.
social media and everything
Yeah.
else. But yes, Bengali masculinity is at a threat,
Yeah.
especially this idea of non-violence.
Yeah.
But you don't think about non-violence when you're munching through your beefsteak at O2, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
A few.
where's your non-violence then?
Yes. A few days back, I had heard a very weird criticism of Hinduism from some random Christian theologian on Twitter, which seemed basically pseudo-historian. You tell me how true should it be considered that any society, any culture that worships women or goddesses is bound to face a crisis of masculinity. Is there any basis for this?
Well, the Gnostic Christians worshipped Sophia,
Hmm.
and fine. Any society that worships women, what was it that he said? Any society that worships women is bound to face.
A crisis of masculinity, and because of that, consequently, they will slowly cease to exist.
No,
That
no, no, no.
culture won't
That's
survive.
that's 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 pure WASP. Mardicanism. Mardicanism, as in not Americanism, but Mardicanism. It's hillbilly
Yeah.
America at its best.
Yeah, they would argue
White
that
Anglo-Saxon.
factually they are correct because Islam and Christianity, who worship a concept or a male concept, they have taken over the world, whereas the women worshippers are relegated to the sidelines.
Uh, Excuse me, we have survived for 10,000 years,
Yes.
and we are continuing to survive. We don't have an OIC, okay, or an OHC,
Hmm.
but we survive. We don't have to play any cards for that.
Yeah. But
So I think it is important to survive first and
yes.
not turn to others. Not turn to subterfuge, card playing,
Yeah.
subterfuge and card playing
Yeah.
and self victimizing But coming to this question of masculinity, there's a question. There's this thing again. What is masculine? There's this question. If you are thinking about fitness, I don't think masculinity is only fitness.
Yeah.
Masculinity depends upon a lot of things.
Yeah.
It is not just it is not just the male hormone that is important.
Yeah.
That is to be taken. I mean, there are other qualities that make a man. And many of these qualities, yes, if you think of it, the Hindu sphere is facing a dilution of several of those attributes. Responsibility for one thing, the inclination towards responsibility, as in external responsibility, the inclination towards internal responsibility, which is again, considering what is normative, it is again a very feminine trait. But then again, one has to understand that every individual has the concept of Ardhanarishwara.
Yeah.
Okay. Every individual has both halves of femininity and masculinity in them.
Yeah.
The masculine traits are present in the form of Ichha Gyan and other Shaktis in the form of the Atmalinga, if you consider the esoteric aspect.
Yeah.
And the Sri Tattva is present as the Kundalini Shakti.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter whether you are outwardly manly or because I have seen the people who are like, I have friends, at least not now. I'm talking about maybe a couple of years back when it was still like that. Before COVID, obviously, I had friends, especially in the so-called masculine space of Jat Haryana, and Delhi,
right?
Obviously, that Delhi ka Londas, thing.
Yeah.
So I have found both extremes there. I have found extremely masculine people in Bengal.
I see.
Who are not fit. But I have found extremely feminine people who are externally masculine but have I'm not getting into more specifics for there will be lashbacks against that because labels again make up for a lot of public opinion.
Yeah.
So it is at a crisis. Yes, the answer is yes. How do we deal with it? We go back to being disciplined.
Right.
Okay. We go back to being disciplined and understanding our place in the world. If at all we are speaking from a nationalist perspective, then yes, we need to remind ourselves that there are things that differentiate between a man and a woman. Not that a woman is lowly or lower than a man for doing certain things. That is certainly not the view that I prefer or even the Hindu Shastras prefer.
Yeah. What do you think of this argument that Ardhanarishwara concept of Hinduism somehow justifies transgenderism?
Well, transgenderism or transvestism has been accepted historically by the Hindu culture. Nobody has asked for them to be killed.
Yeah.
It does not justify anything. Because understanding the concept of Ardhanarishwara, just as one side being a woman, the other side being a man, that is not just what it is. There are other things as well involved with it.
Yeah.
But the point is that making it a project and using these labels where you hate this whole diorama of things, and then you selectively take something out of it and say that this is good.
Yeah.
that sort of cherry picking does not help.
Yeah.
Okay, you sing, while you pour offerings into the fire, you dance and you sing the Rabindra Sangeet. That is what is going on in
Yeah.
Kolkata these days.
Yeah.
You know, what was that song? I don't recall this. Ado alo, Jivane Prabhu Alo, something like that.
Yeah.
And this lady is pouring ghee into the whole this yagya, and it
Yeah.
was so funny. I laughed
Yeah.
because I mean, she doesn't understand what's going on. She's
Yeah.
doing it, all of it, as a sort of a as a sort of a display. It's a
Yeah.
wannabe thing.
Yeah.
It's a wannabe thing. I wanna be this, and I
Right.
want to make a statement.
Yes.
हाँ तो करो statement कर ले अगर आपको करना है. If you want to do this,
Yeah.
then it's going to cost you a fortune
Yeah.
in the future.
And this question of fitness reminds me, a few days back, someone in my friend list, a so-called like a Hindutva person, okay. So he's politically Hindu, he believes in religion, he believes in astrology, everything. So he posted a criticism of these days, which is sort of a fashion that's going on, which I very much support, that young people are making different AI-generated images of gods, Shiva mainly, with gigantic muscles, abs, veins all over their bodies. And he said that this is a pointless distortion. It takes away from what Shiva is meant to be, because he's not a human, and therefore why would he need abs to be strong? And therefore it's kind of a distraction, and one should not do it. And my opinion was that, well, if he is God and therefore doesn't need abs to be strong, why does he even need nose, ears, etc.? So is there a problem with changing how we view gods? And if it becomes an aspirational model for getting into fitness, why not?
See, the gods are basically emanations of the divine. Okay, they're not meant to be generalized. Like what you associate with Indra is not something that you would directly associate with Yama.
Yes.
Unlike what Bengalis know or think, both of these deities are extensively worshipped even today, every day,
I see.
by hundreds and thousands of Hindus, practicing Hindus all over the world.
I see.
So if somebody derives a sense of fitness by being influenced by this so-called crudely positioned images of Shiva or of Hanuman, or for that matter,
Yeah.
fine. If they're happy with that, let them do what they want to do. But yes, yeah. There's this thing, when you pilfer with the images of the deities and you turn Durga into a refugee mother, okay, and Lakshmi and Saraswati as haggard, destitute children.
Yeah.
And then there are other such examples as well.
Yeah.
Cite me another one if you can. Okay, then there's this. What was this?
Donald Trump as Mohishashur. Donald Trump as Mohishashur.
That sort of. And then our supreme protectress. Our supreme protectress Banoniya being designed as the goddess. Like this. It was such a ridiculous picture. I sort of laughed a lot when I saw it. It was so funny. It tells us a lot about how low.
All the people involved in those pujas, people who are making those idols, people who are organizing those pujas, all of them are devout believers. How can they?
See, I will differ from that. Okay. I will differ from. Okay. They're ostentatious performers in a drama, but they're not devout believers. I don't think they believe. A devout believer will not indulge in this sort of behavior.
Right. And Dada, one thing I need to, I had kept it in my mind. One last thing I need to ask, just about relationships specifically, is that what would be the importance of keeping in mind caste and astrology before getting married?
Astrology, Jyotisha, not astrology, but Jyotisha,
right,
plays a very important role. It is important to she be prepared for the future.
Hmm.
Even if the future cannot be predicted, but yes,
Hmm.
certain aspects of it can be sensed.
Hmm.
Okay. Like if I start a PhD now, I'll possibly end it by 2028.
Hmm.
So that's sort of pre-evidence,
Yeah.
uh, premonition, so not pre-evidence, but premonition.
Hmm.
Caste, who is nobody observes Varnashram Dharma these days.
Yes.
Very few people actually do that,
Yeah.
but it does play a role.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, in the Shastras, Pratilom Vivaha can be expiated with, and while Anulom Vivaha cannot be expiated with,
Hmm.
there will be repercussions.
I see.
Um, while I cannot make a very conclusive statement
Hmm.
regarding this,
Yeah.
every person to his or her own, you know, what they find best suited.
Yeah. And is there any way to translate those varnas in today's profession or status terms? So let's say if a PhD is marrying another PhD, no matter what traditional caste they belong to, it's kind of still a scholar marrying another scholar. So there wouldn't be a problem. Would that sort of an argument be applicable here?
To a certain extent, yes.
Okay.
To a certain extent, yes.
Okay.
But there is this thing in psychiatry where people look at each other's family background
Yeah.
before people look at the patient's family background. What sort of whether it's a dysfunctional
Right.
family, whether it's a properly functioning family, it manifests
Yes. Yes.
psychologically as well.
Yes.
So what sort of culture one has been exposed to in childhood
Yeah.
will ultimately manifest in that person in
Yeah.
some way or the other, whether
Yeah.
positively or negatively.
Yeah.
So some of it is, but then there is a path out of it.
Okay.
There is a path out of it, and this is where the tantra comes in again.
I see.
If you enter discipline,
Hmm.
if you enter this discipline, at one point of time, the woman and the man,
Hmm.
both of them, they become equal in samskara,
I see.
and such a household
Hmm.
becomes blessed for the next seven generations
I
to
see.
come,
I see.
and the culture changes. And
Hmm.
it isn't as if there's a displacement. It's a gradual movement or maturity that happens from being entirely smarta or pauranika and going towards tantrika, and then to vamachari, and then
Hmm.
towards kaulachar.
Yeah.
So once you ascend the ladder of acharas, the
Hmm.
seven acharas,
Yeah.
beginning with Vedachara, Vaishnavachara, Shaivachara, Shaktachara, Vamachara, Dakshinachara, Vamachara, Siddhantachara, Divyachara, and Kaulachara, Divyachara. So
Hmm.
this ladder, if you enter,
Hmm.
so you and your wife or you and your husband will be moving along it very smoothly.
I see.
So that will create a very positive vibration for your, and this is something that people, I mean, it's not necessary that this essentially be only in the path of Shakti.
Okay.
Even Vaishnavites have this specific. You
I
see
see.
how happy these couples from Mayapur are.
Yeah.
These
Exactly.
foreigner couples.
Yeah.
I've seen them. They get married and they are living lives like you and I cannot think of.
Hmm.
They will carry Ganga water with them all the time, whether
Yeah.
they're traveling in Sydney or Washington, wherever.
Yeah.
So entering a common sort of cultural practice,
Hmm.
even if it is for sadhana, initial preliminary sadhana, that is very important. Here the importance of spirituality comes in. Once
Right.
a couple enters that sort of spiritual realm
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
okay, and I mean only a couple,
Hmm.
okay, they enter spiritual practice, a spiritual sort of livelihood together,
Hmm.
uh, living a spiritual sort of living
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Uh, their samskaras are turned into, they mature and they collectively grow together.
Right.
So it is important.
Right. And how does reincarnation work? How does the transmigration, that term, The travel of souls.
This is a debate as old as human civilization
Yeah.
itself. The Europeans also debated this. The Greeks.
Hmm.
You know, it does. It does to a great extent. I can tell you about certain incidents about my life, but
Okay.
at the risk of sounding too boring,
No, no.
where I have seen things and felt things and been
Hmm.
through incidents where uh, my knowledge of these uh, seem to be inexplicable.
Right.
I'm doing things. There have been situations where I'm doing a set of things that
Hmm.
I'm doing for the very first time,
Yeah.
and people might call it deja vu.
Yeah.
Fine, ठीक है, deja vu.
Yeah.
But Jatismana, those not scientifically accepted,
Hmm.
has been cited. The cases have been cited all over the world. Very recently, also, I
Hmm.
saw this. So samskara, well, the definition is that you carry your samskara onto your next life.
Yeah.
So I can say that it matters,
I see. Okay.
but not conclusively, since
I see.
I do not have knowledge about it.
I see. Okay. One audience member has asked a question that he needs to ask Professor, that is Allah and Jesus Kalipusha agents, because Allah speaks and does everything Pondrak did and Jesus copies Hiranyakashyap. Think about it. I mean, Kalipusha is supposed to do this. Please read my comment. This is his question.
Again, conspiracy theories.
Okay.
I don't really have a lot of evidence to support it right in hand.
Hmm.
But yes, there have been such mentions in the Bhavishya Purana,
Hmm.
and there are legends of Shukracharya and the Shiva at Makkah, etc. That sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. I'm not a very avid follower of these theories,
Okay.
because there's barely time to complete your own set of daily work.
Yeah.
Daily. It's not just practice.
Yeah.
There is also a lot of study that you have to do daily.
Yeah.
So doing that and then thinking about these things, it doesn't really make it. So agents of whoever it is, Kalipurusha. If we try to simplify it, well, invasions have happened.
Hmm.
Proselytization still is a big thing
Yeah.
in India.
Hmm.
Particularly from the part of the country I come from, I have
Yeah.
seen things happen. The extent of lies,
Hmm.
people go to
Hmm.
in order to proselytize,
Yeah.
and the resistance that has sprung up against it,
Right.
which is important,
Yeah.
which is very important, and the intensely horrific inequalities that are created out of this sort of social transactions.
Yeah.
So
Then
that speech that went viral recently of a certain judge's son talking about the Citizenship Amendment Act being unconstitutional, equality, ultra vires. He should possibly come for a holiday to my area. I'll show him around and show him what exactly happens.
Yeah. These
Then
people will never,
possibly.
even if they visit, they will say that I visited that part of the country, this part of the country, but they will never get out of their cars probably, or will roam about with 50 bodyguards, so they won't know the ground
It's a
reality.
gentleman's club.
Yes.
It's a gentleman's club.
Yeah.
The finer Cuban cigars you smoke, the better your breath smells. Even if it stinks,
Yeah.
they will say, "Oh my God, what a perfume!"
Yeah. It's the judiciary samaj.
Not only the judiciary, there's this, there's this whole, rubric of elitism that is working against the Hindu resurgence all over the country.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you, some atheist viewers of mine are reminding me some questions here, that that recent thing that happened, that woman drowned her child while trying to heal him of cancer in the Ganga. So how do we prevent these harmful superstitions that stem out of religion supposedly? Does the government need to get in, or some more extra responsibility lies with gurus?
Well, tell me something. You must have seen those miracle healers uh, uh, in Africa, in some parts of the
Yeah.
Punjab,
Yeah.
and hallelujah, ठीक हो गई, देखो ठीक हो गई.
Yeah.
पहले बोल नहीं पाती थी, अब बोलने लगी.
Yeah.
So, I mean, aberrations exist in all spaces.
Yeah.
Superstitions exist in all spaces.
Yeah.
Superstitions don't help. Aberrations are natural.
Yeah.
And while you point out things only in the Hindu sphere, let us also take into account the other spheres of religious affiliation that exist. Because if you are an atheist and if you're talking about this from a social perspective, then you need to talk about everything. But if you're talking only about the Hindu religion and talking about how superstitious it is, then I think you are an assaulter.
Yeah. So since I can't speak to you at the moment about Christianity, then would the...
Why can't we?
Because you would not be able to go tell a Christian believer that, no, actually this is superstition, listen to me, I'm giving you the better answer.
Oh yeah, give them the history. The history of Christianity is there. Give them the history of Christianity. There's recorded evidence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you tell them about the Borgia popes.
Yeah.
Tell them about where the word nepotism comes from.
Yeah. Yes.
If you are talking about, as I said, if you're talking about sociality, if you're talking about this from a social perspective, please talk about everything.
Yeah.
Please talk about everything.
Yeah, but solution won't be just about talking about it. So what would be the solution from the religious leaders
that is my
themselves,
point,
or the
which
government?
brings us to the beginning of our conversation, that we need to get back to the spirit of the ritual and not the ritual itself. We cannot bring back the mother culture. We can bring back ourselves we can bring ourselves to understand the modality of the practice.
Yeah.
And that can happen only through practice. That cannot happen through armchair discussions.
Yeah. And
that can happen only through practice.
How does the message get through to the devout Hindu poorest villager who's going to blindly trust anything their local religious leader says?
This is again, this reminds me of the very first chapter from Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, where the author Shri visits Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna asks him about what sort of woman his wife is, whether she's Vidya Shakti or Avidya Shakti.
Okay.
And the author says, no, she's Avidya Shakti because she does not know much.
Okay.
Etc. Etc. He speaks rather derogatorily about his wife, and Sri Ramakrishna says this: "Oi tomader Kolkatar manusher orokomi. Tomra sob jano onnora keu kichu jane na." This is not something I'm saying. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said.
Yeah.
Okay, and he specifically spoke about the people of Calcutta.
Okay.
This is the very first chapter in the Ramakrishna Kathamrita.
Okay.
So unlike what you or I believe, the average Hindu villager is much more religious than you or I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They wake up every day. They complete their bath. Unlike you and me, they're more hygienic than we are, because they're living in a less polluted environment of sorts.
Yeah.
And they practice very steadfast rituals of hygiene. Even if they belong to the so-called lower strata of the society, however poor they are.
Yeah.
The practice doesn't go away.
Yeah, exactly.
I dare you to take some sort of meat that is forbidden and go to a poor Hindu villager, ask him to eat.
Yeah.
No matter how hungry. I mean, if at all there still is the principle intact.
Yeah.
But then again, those doors are dropping out as well. The average Hindu needs to take into account that castes, varnas, these are okay, these are there, but your caste does not need to be worn on your sleeve all the time.
I see.
You might be a Brahmin, but that does not make another person untouchable to you. Okay, you are practicing your daily sandhya. At that point of time, everybody is untouchable. You cannot touch anybody
Yeah.
because a sense of personal space is important. This sense of
Yeah.
purity is personal space.
Yeah.
Okay, and for the average Hindu, especially at this point of time, it is important to remember that even if you are a Brahmin, that does not make you more enlightened than others.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it is out of the mouth of the babes we learn this thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
What do you
yeah.
think of Ramakrishna Mission accommodating Jesus Christ in their pantheon of people to worship?
Well, you know, I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think I have ever liked it, even when I was a disciple of the order.
Okay.
I did everything everybody else was doing at that point of time, but I never really got into that sort of spirit. I studied in a Roman Catholic school,
Okay.
and I am aware of the entire liturgy of mass, and especially having studied Latin professionally.
Okay.
I'm aware of what it all is. So I don't think it's necessary
Okay.
or even helpful.
Why did Ramakrishna Mission just stop at Jesus? Why didn't they include Allah and Prophet Muhammad?
Well, it was just a survival strategy, I feel.
I see.
They had to survive. Therefore, they had to do things that they could do.
Okay. Then what's their argument for going on with it, since now their survival is not dependent on it?
Well, how do you say so?
Because
how
no
do you
one would
say
harm
so?
them
If
even
the
if they
Ramakrishna
didn't
Mission
worship
loses
Jesus.
its secular image at this point of time, do you think it will not make a dent in their whole schema of things?
But
a huge dent.
Will their secular image take a dent if they stop worshipping Jesus Christ?
Yeah, it will. Okay. There will be commentary, there will be narratives, there will be. Then there's the media. Do you remember what the simple gift of bricks during the foundation stone laying ceremony of the Ram Mandir, when the bricks were being sent from Belur Math?
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened at that point of time?
Yes.
A simple gift was making so much of it.
Yeah.
The news was making rounds in the Bengali media.
Yes.
And everybody was, of the opinion that this is something that Ramakrishna Mission should not have done.
Right. Would it be fair to say then this is that again lack of Bengali masculinity and a lack of courage, where religion is not an antidote to these things?
You keep referring to masculinity here. Let me understand it. Are you talking about martiality?
Even mental courage, martiality, mental kshatriya, intellectual
Let
kshatriya.
us be clear about the labels. Are you talking about martiality?
Not beating people up.
Not beating, well, that's not martial, that's bullying again.
Yeah, self-respect.
If you are talking about the martial aspect of, Hinduism, well, Bengalis have suffered a lot due to what has happened to Bengal over the last 100 years.
Of course.
Okay. And it is not as if Bengalis did not have this practice of martiality. I'm sure you have heard about the Protapaditya Utshav that was initiated by the Shadola Devi and the Onushilan Samiti.
Yeah.
So it was there,
but
then again, the Baldi, the great Baldi, did great harm to the entire Bengali ethos by, foisting this sort of madness, non-violence, etc.
Yeah.
So
what is
martiality? Martiality is important, but martiality should not be, mistaken with masculinity.
Okay. But then the fearing of not letting go of Jesus Christ, is that a lack of courage?
Is that a lack of courage? Possibly because they don't. It doesn't really matter to them at all. Maybe it doesn't really matter to them how they're, because it isn't as if uh, Jesus is only worshipped in the Ramakrishna mission.
Okay.
There have been others also who have hailed Jesus and Muhammad as, emissaries of the same source, coming from the same source as the other avataric Purushas or
Yeah.
the other avatars
Yeah.
were coming from.
Yeah.
There have been other people also, like Yogananda, for example, Swami Yogananda.
Yeah.
Yogananda, who was disciple of Swami Yukteswar Giri, and Sri Yukteswar Giri was a disciple of Shri Lahiri Mahasaya. Even there, so their adoration, well, they don't do formal worship like the Ramakrishna mission does, but they also haven't been able to let go of it. Christ for them is a divine yogi.
Okay.
So as long as this idea of yogi is being fulfilled, as long as one is worshipping only this idea of motherhood as envisioned in the Virgin Mary, or yogihood as seen in Jesus, it is fine. I think it's all right. But if one is
and them being such a gigantic organization and with full ground connection, etc., I'm sure they are aware of the proselytization that goes on. So,
but they are doing a lot against it as well.
Yeah,
I'm not getting into details.
Yeah, that is my question. That why would they be against proselytization then? That let proselytization go on. They also the people who are being victims of proselytization. They also worship Jesus, and they worship Jesus anyway. So there's no problem.
But the people who are worshipping Jesus and asking you to not worship other gods. Right. Those people who are proselytizers, they're asking you to worship only Jesus and not worship other gods.
Yes.
The Ramakrishna mission has never said don't worship other gods, only worship Jesus.
Yeah.
And the Ramakrishna mission does not also, I can say personally that, the Ramakrishna mission does not force its followers to compulsorily follow the worship of Jesus.
Yeah, of course.
It's a practice that is done as a symbol of affirmation of Vivekananda's inspiration of Vivekananda's inspiration that he drew from the Imitation of Christ, that book.
I see.
Also, there's another reason why 25th December is celebrated so widely. 25th December is the establishment date for the Ramakrishna order.
Okay.
25th December night is the night of the vigil, where Vivekananda, along with all his brother disciples at Antpur, they took on the vows of sannyasa, the Viraja home. Okay, so there's this also other reason why. And on that day, they worship Sri Ramakrishna also. It's not just that they worship only Jesus.
Yeah. And there's this...
I'm not comfortable with it. Please believe me, I'm not comfortable with it.
Okay. So
but I understand the need for...
Are you aware of any conversations going on internally inside the organization that now we can let go of it or something?
That is there.
Okay.
I'm not privy to a lot of stuff because I'm not a member of the Ramakrishna order. I cannot speak for them.
Yeah, of course.
I cannot speak for them. But since our lineage reveres Sri Ramakrishna, in fact, Sri Ramakrishna belonged also to our lineage of Kaula practitioners.
Yeah.
He himself was a Kaula practitioner, as was Shri Sharada Devi and many of their disciples as well, and many senior sannyasis of the Ramakrishna order till the present date are practitioners of the Kaula Marga.
I see.
So it is. I can't really say that there are such conversations going on, but yes, there are conversations among followers about this sort of thing that is going on, how we might let go of these things. And then again, what's the use of letting go? I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't really mean a lot. If you stop doing it, don't do it, do it.
Yeah.
Nobody is forcing you to. And so I think everybody should be able to live their own lives.
Yeah.
If you can worship Sai Baba, why can't you worship Jesus?
Yeah.
I mean, Sai Baba also is a yogi, comes from a different religion,
Yeah.
and you're still worshipping him with the due sort of. If you're
Hmm.
talking about Jesus, then also please talk about Sai Baba.
Yeah, but
Not only Sai Baba, talk about Malhar Baba. There are other such folk figures that have been, assimilated into the Hindu tradition.
yes.
Folk deities, locally, Shottapir.
Yeah.
Why do you worship Shottapir then? Why do you worship Bon Bibi?
Yeah. Yeah. Accommodation
Don't
to
worship.
always goes on in Hinduism.
So it goes on.
Yeah, it's only in case of Jesus Christ is a stark and a glaring example, because it's only their believers who don't want others to be worshipped, whereas he himself is being
Uh,
worshipped.
but see, Ramakrishna Mission worshipping Jesus, I think, makes a lot of statement also.
Hmm.
You're sort of what this is what the Hindu sphere did to Buddha as well. They adopted him into the pantheon.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a historical event that's taking place. I think
Okay.
people should not make too much out of it
Okay.
and let go of it. Let people practice whatever they want to practice.
Okay. Yeah. And
And
there's another.
Hindus especially at this point of time should not be so nitpicky about everything that is going on.
Okay.
It is important to survive first. Please look at Israel and learn. Please look at Israel and learn. We are the only Hindu nation left on earth.
Yes.
Where are we supposed to go?
Yes. And there's definitely no Israeli organization who are worshipping Jesus or Prophet Muhammad.
Well, no, but Jesus is still revered in in Judaism.
Yeah,
He's
that's
still
because of
revered.
their general history, not as a statement that, see, we are so nice.
That is there. But then again, you have to understand that there is no such thing as worship of an agent or an agent of the supreme deity in Judaism. Judaism does not believe in the worshipping of idols.
Yes.
Catholicism does.
Yeah.
Catholicism does. Judaism doesn't. It isn't mainstream practice for them to practice, worship of
Yeah.
of a cult figure.
Yes.
But it is certainly mainstream practice for a Hindu.
Yes.
So a Hindu is paying respect to Jesus in the way he or she wants to. Let him be.
Okay. There's another.
Nobody is going to cut your neck off for that.
Yes, of course. There's a weird argument also comes from Commie Bengalis who are big fans of Ramakrishna Mission, that the way Ramakrishna Mission worships Lord Ram, that is the way to do it, and not with so much fanfare and DJs, etc. What's your opinion on that? Because my understanding has been that since Lord Ram was a Kshatriya himself, why not celebrate him with a lot of fanfare?
See, it is very repressive to just foist one's opinion onto others, especially in the matters of religion. And this sort of Protestantism doesn't really work with inside of the Hindu sphere. People have tried and they have failed miserably.
Yes.
They have tried and they have failed miserably.
Yes.
I think a proper balance needs to be kept between being very orthodox and at the same time being very, practical about things. Being very practical about things, because otherwise, it's a competitive world.
Yeah.
Where are you going to last?
Yeah, of course.
So you don't have problems with people dancing at a DJ at a DJ function. So why would you have problems with celebrating Ram? Let others do. You don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
So, why do you have to criticize others?
Yeah.
If you are being disturbed by it, yes. I'm not of the opinion that loudspeakers should be played for too long a time. They should. I'm not myself a huge fan of the rivalry that goes on.
Yeah.
Be at limits, within limits, stay within limits, and be responsible towards the country.
Yeah. Where do you stand on the Aryan invasion theory issue? How much do you think of it?
AIT. Yeah. AIT. See, there wasn't an invasion. There wasn't any invasion. because the Aryan stock basically encapsulated a lot of space. Okay, and not just it isn't as if they came from outside, India, running with their horses and striking down all Dravidian people. That's not true.
Yeah.
History has proved it to be otherwise. Migration has been an essential part of human civilization.
Yeah.
Ever since the first cave dwellers climbed out of their caves.
Yeah.
Ever since they learned to transport fire, and ever since they learned to use the wheel. So practices have migrated from one space to another, and from another space to yet another space over the millennia. So purely relying on Aryans who came from outside, Dravidians who were from inside, that sort of thing, that sort of watertight compulsion, watertight compartmentalization is again politically motivated and nothing else.
Yeah. Okay.
It's politically motivated.
Yeah. Dada.
If that is the case, then if all invaders are bad, then all invaders are bad. Drive away everything. Why are you driving away only the holy cow?
Yes.
Please drive away the marble monuments as well.
Yes.
Built after the 14th child was born.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you something about a personal pet dream that I have for this country, and tell me what do you think of it. That in the interest of keeping our traditions alive, what would you think of an idea like giving Janeus to anyone who gets a PhD and absolutely eliminating the terms of doctor, etc., and calling them gurus, acharyas, upadhyayas, using these
Will they be proficient in the Vedas?
No.
Then why?
Because Vedas were the knowledge of those days, and we have more knowledge to learn.
Then why do you need the Janu? Just wear the gown.
Tradition of the country.
What?
It's the tradition of this country.
Well, the tradition of this country, if it is not basically the Janu, it is basically the Mriga Charma.
Okay.
It is basically the Mriga Charma, the black buck skin. In ancient times, there was no such practice. I mean, the practice of Janu did not exist as it is today.
Okay.
What was done was basically strips of animal hide. Strips of animal hide, especially taken from Krishna Jina, as in black buck skin.
Okay.
There is enough evidence there's enough scholarly work to support this hypothesis.
I see.
Especially if you read the works of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, better known as Shri Anandamurti ji.
I see.
That animal hide, strips of animal hide were tied across the bodies of people who were initiated into the Kratu Vrata. Kratu Vrata as in the Yagya Vrata. Yagya as in the fire sacrifice, the fire offering. It used to take place over a long period of time, obviously. So people who were participating in it, they used to wear strips of animal hide across them, so as to be marked for the mark that they are practicing this particular discipline for these many days, men and women.
Yeah.
Okay. And because they had to go through a certain rigorous ritual throughout the entire day, they had to stay away from the rest of the society.
Yeah.
So they were given these Krishna Charma sort of thing.
Yeah.
Later, these were replaced by braided ropes of kusha grass, and then again they were replaced after a lot of centuries. They were replaced by the thread that we wear nowadays.
Okay.
So the thread is a fairly recent, 1 or 2 millennia ago.
Okay.
It's not really that, why would you use the Janu? Use Mriga Charma then?
Because no one else uses Mriga Charma. Because the Janu is still the symbol of scholarly knowledge.
No, the Janu is not symbol of the scholarly knowledge. Sorry.
Why not?
The Janu is the symbol of the knowledge that is in praxis.
Okay.
The Janu is not for people who have read the Vedas.
Okay.
The Janu is for people who are practicing the Tri Sandhya daily and are making themselves suitable in order to study the Vedas.
Okay.
So the Janu or the Yagjupavita comprises of threads That
Yes.
now, 3 3 3, as in like, yeah, nine rounds of thread.
Yeah.
So three dandis, basically three dandi,
Hmm.
and each of them represents a particular deity.
Okay.
These deities are on your body. These strings are on your body for you to remember your vows to these deities, that you are going to study the texts that have been created by these deities or are presided over by these deities in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
Therefore, you practice Sandhya in the 3 hours of in the three
Hmm.
times of the day,
Yeah.
and you prepare yourselves psychosomatically in order to be able to understand and read the texts of the
Hmm.
Vedas.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Janeu is not a symbol of scholarly knowledge.
Okay.
It is a symbol that you started on the path towards Brahma Vidya.
Yeah.
So giving Janeu for PhDs is, I think, foolish.
Okay.
This must come from somebody who has no idea of what a Janeu is.
Then we will have to stick with PhDs or the doctorate, which meant that a scholar of
PhDs don't
Christianity.
mean anything. PhDs don't mean anything any longer. I have seen very knowledgeable people who don't have PhDs.
Yes, of
And I've
course.
seen very dumb people who have PhDs and
Yes.
are serving in good universities. And
Yes, of course.
so it doesn't really make any difference. It's a vestige of the Protestant movement, the secular Protestant movement that
Hmm.
was created in Wittenberg in Germany.
Yeah.
Since then, and from there it traveled to England,
Yeah.
and from England we got it well.
Yeah, of course.
So it doesn't really matter, okay, whether you are a PhD or not. Research matters.
Yes.
Good research matters,
Yes.
but you can be scholarly without being a PhD degree holder.
Yes, but in terms of mainstream and who the government is going to hire for
Well,
framing
the
policy,
government has said
etc.
already. The government has said already that PhDs are not essential for anybody being hired hired or promoted in, in the new educational policy.
Yeah. So then
So
maybe
when the
masters then,
government has gotten rid of it already, will you also get rid of it? What's the use of it?
because it doesn't have to be necessarily just the PhD, but anyone who is a researcher. For them, I'm saying, because it's still better than something that has come from Germany and England. The term, the
Well, as long as you're studying about post-colonial interventions and how India is still the post-colony
yeah,
and that sort of thing, I guess it matters a lot.
yeah,
But that isn't really the sort of knowledge system that is going to benefit India in the long run.
okay,
It isn't.
okay,
I think the new educational policy also needs a lot of development. It
yes,
also
of course.
needs to be amended in the future.
Hmm.
I'm sure it will be amended, and it really gives a lot of scope for the dissolution of this elitism of this academic elitism. I have a PhD, you don't have a PhD, so you don't
Yeah,
sit with me, don't eat with me. I
yeah,
eat in a different room, you eat in a different room.
yeah.
So yeah, doesn't matter really, basically.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
How do we then? Now, this is the final question for today. How do we include Indian knowledge systems in academia or specifically liberal arts? Is there any way to imbibe them other than philosophy?
Other than you're talking about how we may incorporate Indian knowledge
Right.
systems in
Yes.
other than just Indian philosophy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Include Indian literature.
How
Include
do we do
Indian
it in
literature.
sociology?
Well, include Indian sociological texts. Even if there wasn't really a stream called sociology,
Yes.
then you
Yes.
create one. You write about it. You write about Hindu cultural memory. You investigate.
Hmm.
You are a social sciences scholar.
Hmm.
You're sitting there in Japan and talking about the kamikaze, and you're talking about how Indian knowledge systems cannot be included in blah blah blah, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. It's
Yeah.
also up now. There are a lot of things that and there's a lot of scope for Indian academics to do, and there is a lot of work that is being done.
Okay.
There is a lot of work, not just in philosophy, but also in mathematics, that can be done if only the people in these departments would shift their focus from uh, their Western orientations for one moment of time.
Yeah. Have you read Raja Ram Mohan Roy's letter to Macaulay, asking for not creating a Sanskrit college?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there, his criticism was that.
Don't ask me about him, please, because I'm going to end up, creating enemies for myself. I hope that answers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a problem because we are mostly on this side of of your argument only, my viewers, me, etc.
So, well, I think he did a lot of disservice to the Hindu community at large.
Yeah, but specifically, his argument against the Sanskrit college was that what's the point of knowing these things? Whereas he could have argued that why not teach everything in Sanskrit? Is that possible anytime in the future?
Teach everything in Sanskrit? Maybe. I do have hopes.
Would that be beneficial?
In a post-imperial world, possibly no. But if we reach to that particular point of economic independence and development where we are able to dominate the rest of the milieu, then yes, it will be beneficial. It's already beneficial. It's already there in the United Kingdom. Go to the United Kingdom. You will see people practicing Veda mantras.
Right.
Children from North England, the most Norman of all places in England. Okay, yes. Practicing Veda mantra because they themselves have loved. If you walk on the streets of Europe, you will see how much godless that whole place has become.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not saying this only. My friends from Europe, from my friends from Prague, my friends from London, my friends who live in Oslo, a friend of mine who is from Vienna and has become a full-fledged Aghori now. All of them have said the same thing, that Europe has become godless.
Yeah, of course. There's a famous book by Douglas Murray called Strange Death of Europe.
I know that book. It's a very important book. Possibly should be included as compulsory reading for all, students of European history or of European culture history.
I would very much.
I think we are not really studying the West.
Exactly.
We have to study the contemporary West.
Exactly. Very, very.
And especially America.
Yeah.
America has to be interrogated.
Yeah. It's anything practically in front of our eyes.
America is responsible for a lot of things.
Yes.
I'm not saying what things. I'm not saying how and where and why. But America is responsible for a lot of things that it should be made answerable for. I hope somebody has the guts to do that in the future.
Yeah.
Especially the utter demolition of the Native American ethnic. The demolition. If you have watched American Gods, have you watched American Gods?
No.
Please read the book and watch the series if you can.
Neil Gaiman's graphic novel, right?
Yes. Please read the novel. You'll find it absolutely self-explanatory of why America is what America is.
Yeah.
And why Barack Obama is the least undeserving of Nobel Peace Prize winners.
Absolutely.
He's the only president in the history of the United States to have been at war all 8 years of his presidency.
Yes.
Every single day.
He restarted slavery in Libya.
Yeah, he did. And then he wins the Nobel Prize for peace. How? Where? Why? Just because he's black? And he's not even completely black. He's half black.
Yes.
His mom is white.
To overcompensate for killing indigenous Americans.
Yeah, and I think most of this, terrorism that we see focused all around the certain part of the world is basically America's gift to the world.
Yes,
people will start blaming Russia, the Soviet Union, but I think what the Soviet Union did in Afghanistan After that, America took over, and America
Yeah.
started doing it to the that to the people of those, how poor, how what terrible state they're in.
Yeah.
They're in a terrible state.
Yeah.
And even if, I sometimes find that the rise of certain resistances against the marauding American machinery
Hmm.
is sometimes justified.
Hmm. Like Jordan Peterson himself says that no one ever gets away with anything. So I guess no one needs to hold USA accountable. It's destroying on it's destroying itself as
But
we
mind
watch
you,
from
the
here.
same thing will also apply to India one day.
Hmm.
If people do not understand now,
Hmm.
the same thing will apply to India. And I say this as an appeal to all Bengalis out there.
Yes.
Please understand right away.
Yes.
Or there might be a situation where it will be difficult to locate a Bengali inside of Calcutta in the future.
Oh yes, absolutely. Even the fertility rate is gone. So there's no going to be no species left called Bengali liberal in 50 or 80 years.
Please be reminded that we are a linguistic community,
Hmm.
and we are what we are still. We are what we are still just
Hmm.
because we are in Bharat.
Yes.
Okay, if we had been in Bangladesh, which many so-called Bengali intelligence, so-called Bengali intellectuals are fond of,
Yeah.
epar Bangla, opar Bangla,
Yeah.
which part Bangla, that part Bangla,
Moitri.
is part Bangla, part Bangla.
Yeah.
This sort of, religious, this sort of naive mythography is not going to last for long. It's already started degrading.
Yeah.
It's already started degrading, and look at what is happening in Chandranath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at what is happening all over. All if the if well, let's not get into that sort of conversation. But
There's
the
a
point
big
is that
there's a big now anger against ISKCON of Bangladesh for protecting Chandranath. And interestingly, ISKCON is considered sort of the soft, nice people in Hinduism, but they were the ones who
oh
stood
no
their
no,
ground in Chandranath.
regardless of whatever disagreements I might have with ISKCON,
Hmm.
regarding their philosophical
Yeah.
standpoints,
Yeah.
but I think Srila Prabhupada
Hmm.
saw the mythos of secularism very early on.
Right.
And there's video evidence also. You might have
Yeah.
seen his video about
Yes. Yes.
the Great Baldy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The exact word was rascal.
Yeah.
I think that defines the Great Baldy very, very clearly and precisely.
Yes. And
Yeah.
if you have listened to our last live stream with that mysterious sociologist, I asked him near the end that are you a proud Bengali? And he said something similar to what you said. So I'm going to ask you as well that are you a proud Bengali? And he said that it's being Indian that saved me, not being Bengali entirely. So are you a proud Bengali? And where do you see the difference between regional pride and how do we accommodate regional pride inside nationalism? Because I see them at complete loggerheads with each other. I don't see a value in regional pride, and I think it should cease to exist.
See, I am proud that I am Bharatiya.
Hmm.
Okay. And I insist that I am Bharatiya,
Hmm.
regardless of whatever language I speak,
Right.
whatever religion I preach.
Hmm.
Now, one might say, what is so great about Bharat?
Right.
Well, the only thing that is great about Bharata that this one particular cultural identity has successfully thrived against all narrative emanations from the West
Yeah.
or from the Middle East.
Hmm.
It has succeeded. It will succeed. It
Hmm.
will stand straight. So be proud of what of this region. Remember, you're a limb in this region.
Hmm.
You're a limb of this country. You're a
Yeah.
limb of this nation. You're an Angarajya.
Hmm.
One might say, there is no bongo in here, or there is no, this particular state is not mentioned in the national anthem. So what? This is not Tagore's fault. Somebody else, extracted this piece out of the original poem, Bharata Bhagya Vidhata.
Yeah.
So it's not Tagore's fault.
Yes.
Tagore was a very proud Indian.
Yeah.
You read his poem Hindustan.
Yeah.
He specifically writes Hindustan.
Yes.
Read his poem Shivaji. He was very proud of it, of the
Yeah. Yeah.
fact that he was Indian.
Yes.
And so, if you believe in Tagore, then if you find Tagore to be worthy of reverence, then I think you should also uh, obviously find his ideas about nationalism very. See, the nationalism is not something that is dirty or filthy. It gives you a sense of being, a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Politically, it is very appealing to even the most politically uninformed of people, and to the most elite of
Yeah.
among knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
So nationalism is not a dirty thing.
Yes.
What is dirty, we know very well.
Yes.
We're not getting into that.
Yeah. But at that point, the Bengali so-called linguistic pride people, then they bypass Rabindranath and go to Bodhayana's 3,300 years back, saying that Bengalis or the people living in the Vanga region are mlechas.
I don't know where they found this from. If they are going back to Bodhayana, then they should also possibly go back to what's this fellow's name? I forget. This part. So Raghunandan Bhattacharya, who said there are only two castes in Bengal: Brahmins and non-Brahmins. Okay, Mlecha is not a dirty word again.
Yeah.
The word Mlecha is not a dirty word. The word Yavana is not a dirty word. It's not a cuss word basically.
Yeah.
It's a cuss word that's been turned in. It's a word that's been turned into a cuss word by Bollywood and by Tollywood.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in the old black and white Bengali films, Mlecha thought as being revolutionary and being anti-dharma is something that has been quite often portrayed. So I don't think a region being earmarked as Mlechas would somehow ostracize the people of that region. If that is the case, then Smartakars would not, Smarta writers would not have included Bengal or Gouda, Banga and Gouda in their deliberations.
Yeah.
Yasmin deshi adachara parabhay na dosho magadhe madhye anye yonei kalingake udre bhratri baduscha bhoge gaude vatsasya bhojane duhitur matulasyapi vivahe dravidastatha yasmin deshe yadachara paramparyam vidiyate. Yasmin, this is where this line comes from. Yasmin deshi yadachara. So the achara of that particular land, one must understand that Bodhayana did not say this, to condemn Bengalis. Also, another historical thing, Bongo as we know it is not the Bongo that that Bodhayana was speaking of.
Okay.
Bodhayana was speaking of a Bongo, a particular portion of the Panchabongo. There are 5 Bengals.
I see.
Okay. Bongo, Ongo Bongo Kolingo Gouro, and Ongo Bongo Kolingo Gouro and Shomotot.
Right.
So he was talking about a particular region where the Vedic rites were not celebrated. Yes, that's historically true. So somebody who does not celebrate the Vedic rites is the Mlecha or a Yavana.
So that argument lies that therefore Bengal is eternally sort of outside the Vedic fold. Or
no, the people who say this, they must remember that none of them are Bengalis. If you go back 300 or 400 years, you will see their ancestors either coming out from Mithila or Kanyakubja or somewhere in the Arakan or somewhere in Kamarupa or somewhere in Odisha or somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. Yeah. The original inhabitants of Bongo no longer exist.
Yes.
Even if they exist, they are the ones who conform themselves within the ambit of Laukika Hinduism. So they were folk, they were Hindus who practiced the folk culture. Yeah. They did not live in the Nagar, they lived in the in the forests, in the Vana region.
Yeah.
So their practices, their culture was not similar to the culture of the people who lived in the cities
Exactly.
or in the more urban spaces.
Yeah.
So I think this sort of cherry picking is not of any use.
Yes. Okay then, Dada. Thank you so much for giving us all this knowledge and information. We hope to have a
I didn't.
conversation with you
I mean, it
soon.
was a very fun conversation. We didn't
Yes.
get to speak a lot about the tantra, but we spoke only about. I think you should consider, rebranding your video or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm very thankful that you called me, and it
Yeah.
was very interesting talking to you.
Yeah.
My best wishes to you and to your channel. I hope it grows very fast and gets a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and my namaskar to all the viewers out there. If
Yeah.
any of my opinions have offended you, please forgive me. I am a very amiable person. I'm open to all sorts of dialogue,
Yeah.
and I believe that everybody should be able to speak what they want to speak as long as it is logical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
And we hope to have you back soon for that Jati Varna discussion.
Yeah, sure. Please make it, please make it like I told you how it
Yeah. It
should
will be
be.
a panel
It's
sort of.
yeah, have some funny people over as well.
Yeah.
People who can actually smite with their words.
Yeah.
I know a lot of such people, and it's a lot, but we have a lot of work ahead. So
Yeah.
I hope you do your work properly and without,
Yes.
changing directions.
Yeah.
My personal request to you is not to make this a voyage of self-discovery, but a voyage of narrative, opportunity making.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll share your stuff and keep following your channel. And best of luck.
Thank you, Dada.
Okay, namaskar.
Namaskar. Good night, Dada. Okay, guys. We are ending the live stream now in a few minutes. Let me see some comments now. We will do that Jati Varna discussion with our mysterious sociologist as well in sort of a panel, and let's see if we can get more people. Actually, more than 3 or 4 people will make so many people wait for so long. Let's see if we can keep it down to 2 or 3 people, because I'll have my own opinions and views as well. Up to screen color corrupt. I have different reasons for that. Bengalis adopted Bharatiya consciousness, therefore became Bharatiya from Mleccha, right. Arakan is where Rohingyas are from, yes. Where did the original Bengalis go then? The original Bengalis, the people did not go there, but their culture got mixed up with many things. Like that poem from Bhushuku I have given as an example so many times. That was called the sort of the Proto-Bengali language. So the language got changed when the Brahmins came from Kanyakubja and from different places. Then the Kshatriyas came. Then the so-called tribals or the forest dwellers, who were the original inhabitants, who were basically the people with the Khmer Mon ancestry, people who kind of look like me or more like Mamata Banerjee. Those sorts of people. And how is Mamata Banerjee a Brahmin? Because everyone was accommodating each other, okay? But most importantly, what you have to remember in this context is that Bengal was a very uninhabited place, okay, 3,000 years back. It was mainly full of forests, marshlands, and some forest-dwelling people who were mainly converted to Islam, and people did not convert to Islam because of caste oppression. And this has been proven by a historian called Dr. Shomo De, who I'm also planning to bring on my podcast very soon. I haven't spoken to him. I hope he'll say yes. His book is called something like Becoming Hindus and Muslims or something like that. Okay, so he proves that it was largely an uninhabited place. Some Nagara Grama had some people, but the large gigantic population lived in forests, who were outside the caste system, so to speak, and were not being oppressed by any Brahmin day in and day out. Those were the people largely en masse converted by Muslim kings, and that's how the Islamization of Vanga happened, not because of Brahmin patriarchy, okay. But there are many basics you need to be clear about. Yes. Okay, Dada, I tagged you on Twitter for 2 Buddha Vishnu. Okay, yeah, we are going to have you on the podcast as well. Okay then, guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Good night.